Good morning and good afternoon, everybody. This is Team Fronius USA. Welcome to our webinar. Today we're going to be going over the Fronius Smart Solution and the Adaptive System Design. Today with me we have Technical Sales Advisors Marc and Chris. They're going to be hosting this webinar for us. Just a reminder, as we go, feel free to type in questions for the guys. If we have time and we're on schedule, we can stop and I'll ask them some questions and we'll get them to answer for us live. Otherwise, we'll get those questions at the end. So without further ado, thank you everybody for joining. I'm gonna let Marc and Chris do a quick intro and then we'll take it away.
Hey guys, this is the voice of Marc.
Hey guys, this is Chris. Thank you for joining us today.
All right, so we're here to talk about the Fronius Smart Solution and the Adaptive System Design. First thing I'll probably ask, Chris, how long have you been in solar?
7 years.
That's a long time. Kind of old, aren't you? I guess you've seen a lot of things in solar, right? So what we like to say is that solar has come a really long way. It's evolved very, very fast as a market, but we still say it has a long way to go. Taking a look at this graph is like one of my favorite graphs because every time I look at it, I have a new way of trying to explain this. So let's start with just the basis of the graph. It's a solar, we call the technology adoption lifecycle graph. You can see it's like a nice kind of curve, almost a Gaussian curve, where we can see how people adopt any technology. It's broken down into these different sociological sectors. First, we have our innovators, and if you think about this, let's take the newest iPhone or newest phone release into account. We have our innovators, these techies. They saw the new iPhone come out, and they're like, I gotta have it. They don't know anything about it. I mean, they've seen the iPhone, they think they like iPhone, but they're like, man, I want this phone. Next, our early adopters. They're those people who have seen the technology. You know, they're watching it, unboxing. You guys on YouTube, watching those CNET unboxings, they're checking out the specs, and they're like, okay, yeah, I want this phone. Our early majority is a little different to that. They're a little more conservative, right? They want to make sure that all the bugs are out, all the bug fixes out. There's no issues with that phone coming up, so they want a safer buy, basically. Our late majority, even more conservative, right? And then our laggers, they speak for themselves. They're probably using a flip phone at the time.
So Marc, did Fronius come up with this graph, or is this done?
Actually, no, this is not Fronius graph. It's been adapted to webinar, but it actually came from Solar Chamber. That's where we got this information from. And yeah, that's why we just put together all this information just to kind of depict the way solar has been adopted as a technology. So if you kind of look between the early adopters and early majority, what we call the chasm is what we're trying to get to, right? So as you can see, Hawaii has crossed the chasm in terms of adopting solar as almost like a lifestyle, right? It means the majority of their population has adopted it.
What type of problems are stopping these states from actually crossing the chasm?
Various problems. Honestly, you can't really point your finger to one thing. Hawaii, for example, has created an infrastructure, that suits solar, right? There's a lot of regulations, there's a lot of codes. There could be people who still are not educated about the solar technology, right? And there's people who might not see the value in it. So thus, us trying to get the word out to more and more of these end customers about, the benefits of solar will help us cross the chasm into the early majority. So let's take a look at today's situation in residential solar, right? So what we find is we have a lot of red tape, code requirements like the NEC. We have issues with high customer acquisition costs, and then monitoring is a really big issue. It's a necessity. We believe it's a necessity, but we also believe that pure solar data is boring. Let's face it.
And which one of these do you think is the most impactful towards installers?
To me, I would say red tape and code requirements, because we pretty much live and die by the NEC code, right? All of our technology and how we develop our technology is kind of geared toward so that's one of those things where we're trying to follow the code and make sure that we are meeting every code that is put out in those 3-year iterations, right?
So high customer acquisition costs, do you feel like there's some good ways that customers can lower their customer acquisition costs throughout?
So for those who don't know what customer acquisition costs, it's all of the costs that are associated with getting an end customer, an end user to buy into your product, right? Whether that be marketing, sales, you got foot patrol out there just knocking on doors, you got to pay those people, right? So all that goes into your customer acquisition costs. Ways of doing that, we will actually kind of get into like a little bit as we go on. How do we address some of those things, right? Red tape and code requirements. Always knowing what you need in terms of your every solar installation, which will optimize your system, right? I've talked about, like every state is different in terms of installation, and so knowing what you need in terms to meet those code requirements and not just taking this one size fits all approach to your solar installations will help you be able to not only meet red tape and code requirements, but also not oversell a customer and give them something that they don't need. Customer acquisition costs is what we just talking about. One of the ways we believe that you can lower your customer acquisition cost is by adding some differentiation to your business portfolio. And what that means basically is that we have a lot of installers operating in the same states, the same general areas, and they're offering the same solutions, right? Which means if you're offering the same solutions to these customers, the only thing you guys have to talk about or have to compete on is price, right? So that means you're going to these customers with this cookie cutter approach where you're not really taking the customer's needs into consideration, right? If I come to you and I offer you a television, right, where you might just be a simple customer who just wants to watch the news, right? And I got somebody over here like Sloan who likes gaming, right? And I tell you, I got 4K, I got a crazy refresh rate. Well, now I'm selling the things to her that she needs out of a TV. Why would I sell you a 4K TV to watch CNN all day, right? It just makes no sense, right? So yeah, and monitoring, right? Monitoring should always add value to your customers, to you. If monitoring doesn't add value, it becomes a nuisance, right? What we've heard is that too much monitoring becomes a nuisance. It's silly to say, but too much information sometimes is a bad thing. But just make sure that the customer that it's geared towards is the type of customer that can handle the type of monitoring that you're offering to them.
So when you're talking about customer acquisition costs, going back to this, differentiating yourself from other installers, correct? And then from there, you're able to say, for example, if they're offering traditional MLP, you're able to come in with a string inverter at a lower cost, and that's differentiating.
That is a big differentiator.
Chris, in your opinion, do you think the customer acquisition cost is the biggest thing that our installers are facing as a challenge, in your opinion?
I do. I think it's one of, I would say it's definitely the biggest one out there.
Mark, what are your thoughts?
I would say that, yeah, because it's crazy because I don't think a lot of people sit down and think about it. I don't think it's a big type of discussion. I think, as you said, we focus a lot more on just meeting the red tape and the code requirements, and we're thinking like, oh, once we build this product that meets requirements, are people going to buy it, right? And we don't think about our overheads, our margins, none of that stuff.
The silent killer.
Exactly, the silent killer. Exactly what it is. End cost, right? Exactly. So end cost, soft cost, all those things that take up that go into customer acquisition costs. So I would believe it's really, really important. So that makes the conclusion here even more like substantial. Like solar systems need to be adaptable, right? So being able to customize a system to the specific needs of that customer. I keep saying it's lame and it's corny, but you can't spell customer without the word custom, right? So you got to make sure that you're addressing that customer's needs like at all times. So we want to take a look back to our principles. Like we always go by these 3 key principles of creating a really good energy supply. Our first principle, what is your #1 buying criteria? Anytime you go out to buy something, whether it be that TV, whether it be that car, what are you going to say? I need this to be reliable, right? You don't want your new car to break down the middle of the highway, right? You need something that's reliable that'll get you from point A to point B at any given time, right? Optimization and future-proof and flexibility, right? So those are the three key pillars we believe that in creating a good energy supply. And those are three key principles that we put into building our solutions for all of our customers. And optimization, right? Optimization, not just about, I know we hear the word optimization in our industry a lot, but it's not all about optimizing on a DC or a module level. It's about optimizing the entire system, right? Optimizing the entire system meaning optimizing for cost, optimizing for performance, right? That speaks right back to making sure that your customer needs are being addressed.
One thing I think is important to point out here is that, you know, we have future-proof and flexible. So our system's going to be long-lasting,
right,
and flexible in design.
Right.
And designing with it, and also how we design the product. So when we start talking about customizing with it, I think it's a pretty ideal product out there for customers.
Yeah, and guess what? If we meet all of those principles, right, we get a little closer to, you know, our goal. Like, this is a Fronius team. We have a team mantra. We have a team goal of trying to get 24 hours of sun, right? A world powered by renewables, right? We stick to our future-proof, reliable optimization, and that's our FRO. Coincidence, you guys think? No, you're not buying it, but PRO, yeah, our PRO principles, just to get to our mission statement of 24 hours of sun, right? So let's get to our meat and potatoes, guys, like our Fronius Smart Solution. And just to let you guys know what the Fronius Smart Solution has in store. We call it our adaptive system design because we believe the solution can be built modularly. The solution contains the Fronius Primo Inverter, the Fronius Rapid Shutdown Box, the Fronius Smart Meter, and of course our Fronius Monitoring Portal, Solar.web. So as I said, we speak to adapting the system to the specific needs of the customer. And I said, not just DC optimization, the entire solution, right? We're meeting all of the customer's needs and building them the optimal solution where they aren't using these technologies or pieces of equipment that are not relevant to their specific needs. So with that being said, adaptability is key, right? So we talk about being, you know, kind of guided by the NEC code and how that kind of dictates us as an industry. And so let's take, for instance, like you're operating in NEC 2011, right? There's no rapid shutdown required. Your installation seems real simple now, right? You just need a basic string inverter, right? You're gonna have your modules, you have your basic string inverter, and you're pretty much good to go. You're good to rock and roll. Your customer's happy, they see in production. Let's go. You're
also talking about, say, non-residential ground mounts that are also single phase.
Exactly. Anywhere that doesn't require that iteration of the code where rapid shutdown is required. So let's go into iterations of the code where rapid shutdown is required. Well, all you need to do now is add the rapid shutdown box to your string inverter, right? That's the only other additional component that you need, right? Now you've met code requirements and you have the same producing system that you would have had in our first example. Monitoring. We believe monitoring should be on all the systems, right? It should be on all the systems, and we should have monitoring add value to not just the installer, but also the end customer.
How much does it actually cost to add monitoring to your single phase inverter, the Primo?
Well, monitoring in itself doesn't have any additional cost. The data manager that is used to get onto our online portal comes with the Primo inverter, built in, and also our Solar.web monitoring portal is also free of charge to use. So that's a really good added value for all of our installers out there and all of our end users as well. Go ahead.
Yeah, just from an end user perspective, I don't necessarily see or understand all that hardware. So if we're talking about an added value, I actually see the monitoring as something I can use, something I can interact with. It's not like I understand it, unlike a lot of these components that we talk about with solar.
Right. We all, go ahead.
And it's easy to use, it's easy to set up, It's free.
Yeah.
Connects up wirelessly.
Yeah.
Pretty easy to do.
Yeah, I mean, starting in tech support, right? We get a lot of homeowner and customer calls, right? And people usually are just saying like, "Oh, my system's not working," "My system is working," right? They're not asking us to what level is my system working, right? A homeowner wants to see numbers, basically. Usually when they see numbers on the screen, means there's power output, means that their system's producing, and that makes them feel comfortable about all this money that they've invested into this solar thing, right? So what the biggest added value is or should be is your customer's comfort level with their overall investment. And I said, even adding more value, we add our smart meter, right? So now we have consumption monitoring capabilities at the installer level and also at the end customer level, because they can have access to the SolarWeb monitoring portal. What that does is give a lot more transparency to the entire solution in itself, right? So what I mean by transparency is that now the installer can see how that system is performing versus what is being used in the house. They can see like a real-time kind of comparison between what they promised the customer and what they sized the system off of, and seeing how that's affecting the customer's lifestyle. Well, now you as an end customer now might tell themselves, well, man, I want to get more out of my system. So now you can see your consumption, and you can kind of now be kind of influenced on how you use your energy. You might not be as wasteful. You might come out of the bathroom and turn off that light. You know what I mean? All of us are guilty of like walking out of our bathrooms, with leaving lights on, or, washing 3 different loads of laundries instead of, putting them all together. It never makes colors and whites, guys.
Chris.
So let's take a look at our Fronius navigator line. We got our Fronius Gavel. We still have some of those over for grandfather systems in. That still is a viable option. But we're here to talk about the Fronius Primal. 3.8 to 8.2, what we call our small primal, and 10.0 to 15 kilowatts, we call our big primal. Fun fact, 15K kilowatt primal is the largest single phase inverter out there in the market. And between the 10 to 15K primal, these are 1,000 volt rated inverters, right? Also, what I want to mention is just quick snippet. It's not really about this presentation or this webinar itself, but we also have our 3-phase simul inverter, which goes from 10 kilowatts to 24 kilowatts.
And I think it's also important to point out that there's 2 maximum power point trackers on every single primal inverter.
That's very important. So you might be asking yourself, why string inverters, right? Various reasons, right? We talked, me and Sloan had a conversation yesterday, talking about why the roof could be possibly challenging, right? And Sloan has some thoughts.
Yeah, I can't even stand on that roof. It's like my balance is, I don't want to go up there at all, ever. I can't, I sympathize so much with these installers that do all their work there.
I mean, you're right. It's tricky for footing, It's also hot on sunny days. So you don't want to spend too much time up there on the roof just playing around, right? So quicker, easy installs are usually what installers will go to. Time is money. As I said, less time spent out there, the more jobs you can get to in a day-to-day basis. And we believe, again, going back to monitoring, we don't believe that an overkill of monitoring is absolutely necessary for your customers. You might have a crazy brain techie guy, that wants to see like these individual module specs or module output specs. But your average customer, your more pragmatic customer, we believe monitoring at FBT level is completely sufficient.
Most of the time, do you feel that SolarEdge customers are actually turning off module level monitoring for their customers?
I mean, speculation. What we've heard, I would say from a lot of installers is that, module level monitoring kind of helps us, in our value proposition in terms of how we sell to the customers, right? And then we're also told, months later, man, we got to turn that off. We're getting so many customer calls about, the watchdogging is like, I got 8 modules on my roof, but like, why is one of these modules producing 10 watts less than the other? Is something wrong with my system? Can you come out here and look at it, right? And that's another truck roll for that installer who has to come out and look at something that might necessarily be nothing, you know, but a cloud might have came across and hung for a little longer.
The funny thing is when I hear about people doing this, it cracks me up because what they've just done is created MPPT level monitoring.
Exactly that.
That's
okay, we go right back to the MPPT level, right? Exactly. So we talked about meeting code requirements, right? And then we have our rapid shutdown box solution. Our rapid shutdown box comes in two options. We have our rapid shutdown box duo, and then we have our rapid shutdown box quattro. Our rapid shutdown box duo, with the use of line connectors, takes in 2 strings and outputs 1. Our rapid shutdown box quattro takes in, with the same use of those line connectors, takes in 4 strings and outputs 2.
So is the rapid shutdown box AC or DC powered?
The rapid shutdown box is DC powered.
This means that there's no added wiring or anything like that. It's fed off from the modules.
That is correct. Okay. Let's just take a look at the pretty much like a one-line diagram of how it works. As Chris would have mentioned, DC powered. You know, you get modules connected to the rapid shutdown box, and the wire, the signal wire and output from that PV system is run all the way down into one conduit to straight down to the inverter. The signal wire and the PV output wire can share the same conduit as long as the signal wire is rated for the same voltage. Okay? And we talk about solar web, right? Solar.web. All systems should be monitored. We believe heavily in this because when it comes down to, you never want to be blind, right? For any installation that you went to. Like if you ask any installation company of any technology, if they can monitor the system or if they can monitor the installation that they made, they'd be great. You know, like let's say cable. Like if I can monitor how all of my customers installed cable is or performing, then we can kind of get rid of a lot of reactive customer service, right? We could be a lot more proactive with our customer service, calling ahead and saying, oh man, we think you may have an issue. Can we come look at that? You know, it's just another added level of customer service.
And the nice thing about it too is we pointed out that the data manager is free. That's how we get it online. Mm-hmm. Well, once it's online, it's still free. We're not charging for SolarWeb.
Right. And what about our smart meter? We talked about adding more value to your customer. You know, this also helps you differentiate yourself from your competition, right? You can add a smart meter to give your customers the ability to see their consumption. You know, not only just your end customers have now more value, but you also have more value. Let's say you installed a 3 kilowatt system at your end customer's home, and you know they've enjoyed the savings, you know, from their solar system, so much so that they went out and told themselves, oh, I'm gonna take these savings, I'm gonna buy a hot tub, right? Mm-hmm. They put in a hot tub, but now their consumption's gone up a little more, right? But now you can see that the consumption has changed, and then you go back to them, this is a satisfied customer, right? And you can give them this raw data to kind of size them and upsell them on a bigger system, right? And you already have a happy, not only do you have a happy customer, which is really good business for repeat business and upselling, but a happy customer is also a really good source for referrals, right? So now you got this one customer talking about you to all of his neighbors, and this is a good way to get your business to expand. You got a larger portfolio, a lot more people to go to and sell your solar to.
So we got 2 terms up on the board here that is starting to gain more and more traction. We got zero feed-in and dynamic power reduction. Mark, you take one, I'll take the other. I'll let you pick.
I'm gonna take zero feed-in.
All right.
So we talked about Hawaii, right? As they cross the chasm, and it talked about a lot of their infrastructure being suited for solar, right? So one of their regulations that they have is that they have like zero export or zero feed into their grid. The smart meter is a tool where we can do power limitation, and we can create zero export to the grid. So that means everything that's being produced is being used by the loads that the solar is connected to. So Chris, you take that one.
Dynamic power reduction is pretty straightforward. Just say you have, you know, a 10 kW site, but the maximum feed-in that you can actually do to the grid is say 3 kW. So as long as you have all your loads on and things like this, you can produce, you know, 10 kW as long as you're not feeding in more than 3 kW. If you come to a point where you're going to be feeding in 3 kW, it's going to limit the power of the inverter.
Nice. So let's take a look at the pretty much, I want to say the home screen, but like this is the screen that's the most interesting to the user, right? This is pretty much like your system at a glance, right? You can see, I think from the picture of the panel in the sun, you can see what your array is producing at any given time, and that's real-time information. The picture of the light bulb will then show you your consumption if you have a smart meter installed. And the picture of the utility pole would be the power that you're pulling from the grid at any given time.
And this is constantly updating second by second.
Second by second, real-time information. This is a snapshot, guys. I'm sorry I didn't have a live motion picture for you guys. And then again, your energy balance for the day gives you a snapshot of the day's production in terms of your solar and also your consumption for the day, and it kind of gives you a net result.
So you can kind of see it, the red section earlier in the day, that's you actually consuming electricity, where the green is production.
So diving further into that, so we have like an example here of Fronius Italy on a workday. It's kind of very intuitive, and you gain a lot of intelligence by just watching this graph as it unfolds, right? So in the middle, you can see the solar production throughout the day, but then we have our line curve in black, which shows the consumption, basically. So let's follow the trend. So you can see there's an initial spike in the morning. You can tell when people start to come to work, people are showing up for work. I think that's about 9 o'clock. They get a really nice late start to the day.
Coffee in between 8 and 9.
And then you can see, right, when people go for a lunch break, right, there's a drop off in that usage. People probably put their computers to sleep, you know, they unplug their heaters. I don't know how cold it is. Take their phones with them. Yeah, I don't know how cold it is in Italy, but and then again, you can see another drop off and spike of that power where you see it's time to go home. You know, it's time to go home, and we turn off the AC, you know, we turn off the lights in the building, until eventually we get down to this base load, that phantom load. So what we call our phantom loads is basically what the building uses when no one else is there, basically our base consumption before anyone gets in or anyone's in the building. So let's talk about how much system design matters, right? We talked earlier about customizing a system to every customer. So a one-size-fits-all approach is never the right approach, right? And I don't know if you guys can see like some of those pictures. There's some awkward designs and stuff like that, and design flaws become quite an expensive undertaking, you know, for an end customer or even an installation company. Right?
Because the system's not going to be producing what it should be.
Exactly.
You could have problems with the installation. It's just not going to be.
You know why? Because they didn't take the time to optimize their designs, right? So they're taking the time to optimize their designs, they wouldn't have ended up with these design flaws, which they have. But as I said, at the end of the day, all of our goals should be to please our customer. And you can see our customer sitting on their couch peacefully with a tablet in her hand, watching her solar.web and literally watching herself in real time make money, right? And that's the dream for us all, right? So let's talk about the importance of FPV trackers. Chris, you want to let us all know about the importance of FPV trackers?
So as we talked about earlier, the Fronius Primo has two. One of the things that we're doing here is we're constantly changing the resistance on the inputs to change around where the maximum power point is. So it's pretty straightforward. If power goes up, what we're going to do is increase the maximum power point, and then that's again throttling resistance. And then if power goes down, we're going to decrease it.
So let's talk about some design rules, right? And the use basically we heard the importance of them. Will now give us some application on using the maximum power point tracker.
So this is a simple east-west facing system. So with the Fronius Primo, you're going to have 2 inputs per maximum power point tracker. So you could have 4 strings here. So this would probably be about a 10 kW system. 2 strings east, 2 strings west, and each MPPT would have 2 strings.
So you believe, like, again, isolation, right, of those different orientations is where the MPBT becomes very, very vital, very, very, very important of application. Right, about the second example.
So this one's a pretty large installation as well. So you're probably looking at, you know, a 10 kW as well. You're probably going to have one string on MPP tracker 2 with the shaded modules, and 3 strings on MPP tracker 1, splitting up the shaded area from the areas which are going to be unshaded.
And this is shading with a system using a string inverter, correct?
That is correct. That is correct. As I said, like, just having the ability of isolating those strings on different MPP channels makes actually having to build a system where you cannot avoid the shade a possibility, right? So kind of want to break that myth that string inverters can't be used in the shade. Obviously, our first option is to always mitigate shade or design around the shade, but in instances where there may be some partial shading happening or occurring, we can always isolate those shaded modules to a different channel and then have the maximum production out of our unshaded modules on a separate channel.
Yeah, I think that's a big misconception.
Yeah, totally. So let's talk about your benefits with the Fronius Smart Solution. We've been over a lot of things, but let's point to, we talked about differentiation, right? You want to be able to get ahead of your competition with clear differentiation. You don't want to be offering the same solutions to the same customer base. You want to be able to appeal to a larger demographic, right, in terms of solar, and put yourself, you know, ahead of that competition that you are finding it really hard to get to, not to mention lowering those customer acquisition costs and those overheads that your business is incurring. Ease of installation. We talked about how easy it is to install our inverters. We don't have to go in depth in it. I mean, it's simple. You know, we got a string inverter. I told you, if you don't have rapid shutdown, what do you have? You have modules and you have a string inverter, and then you go home, right? It's that simple, right? So we don't have to dive too much. It's ease of install. Cost reduction. With ease of installation, you've lessened the component count, right? You've spent less on labor, right? So you're saving all around, right? And you're getting the same kind of production that you've gotten out of one of the more expensive options out there, right? Customer satisfaction, end all be all of why we're all here, right? It's pleasing that customer, right? As we can get a customer to great customer satisfaction, they are a great candidate for upselling, and also the biggest referral lead that you could possibly ever want in your back pocket. And I said, upselling, it speaks for itself, right? Being able to put things in place so that you're not just coming back and it seems like you're trying to get more money out of that customer, having the ability to present your customer with raw data, right? That they can see that, okay, maybe their consumption has increased and maybe they should expand their system. Will lead to your case to, you know, upsell them to a larger system.
Then one thing I like about upselling, when you start using the smart meter, you can do things like monitor your consumption. You can potentially add in LED lighting or something like this. You can upsell them on a different branch of your business.
It's true.
Maybe add in a battery-based system.
Right, and energy efficiency as well, right? If you want to take on energy efficiency in the home, you go back to them with that same consumption data and say, hey, these are some of the changes that you should make inside of your home.
Yeah, as a homeowner that is already interested in solar, this kind of data of how I'm using my energy and how I can audit myself is very valuable, yes. I have to say.
Especially since I leave during the day. I know the graph that we saw was, you know, people going to a business and then working, right? So when I leave, I should all be feeding into the grid essentially. I'm going to have a smaller base load here in the middle of the day.
Right. So with everything, we have support, right? We believe in support. We believe in 24 hours of sun, but we also try to believe in 24 hours of support, right? We always want to give our support to the installers and to the end customers who may need a guiding hand through installation processes or monitoring, or just a deeper level of understanding of any of the features that we offer, right? So we have our technical sales advisors, that'd be me, Chris, and we got other people spread out across the region, across the nation, that can help explain things to you guys no matter where you are in America. We got a string sizing tool. If you're new to designing with us, we have a string designing tool that we provide that you guys can use just in case you're unsure about if there's how many strings or your string lengths. Our tool is a really good guide in terms of getting your designs down to its optimal level. Design training, again, if the string sizing tool is not enough, hey, give us a call. We'll sit down with you. We'll go through it. We'll crack some jokes while we're doing it. I mean, it's just very, very light, right? I mean, we're always here to help. It's our passion, and it's what we get up in the morning to do. So never feel like you're bothering us. And with all things, please, hey, we do these webinars. Try to base our webinars based on the customer responses that we get. So if there's any topics that you guys want to hear more about, or anything that you need further understanding about, please feel free to reach out to us, and we'll try to make it into a webinar. So don't feel like you're the only person asking that question. Other people, we got FAQs for a reason, right? Other people are asking that same question. So it'd be great for us to answer all you guys at once, right? So please just reach out. It's almost use it as a suggestion box. Just let us know what you guys have any issues with, and we'll try to make it into an info session.
And if you guys have any questions, now would be the time to type them in.
Type. And also, if you want to get into them for the rest of our webinars, they're on our website. Sloan could probably give you that off the top of her head.
Yeah, the exact address, www.fronius.us/pv/events. That'll have all of our webinars, all of our upcoming trainings that we do internally. Sign up for more.
She'll type it in the comment section, just in case you guys didn't catch that with a pen and paper. I know it's a mouthful. She'll type the hyperlink in there. But yeah, just sign up now, guys. Just sign up for our next webinars, and we'll hope to hear you guys in our next session. But thank you for coming out and giving us, that piece of the day where you want to listen to our webinar.
Yeah, we don't have any questions right now, but if we want to give it a couple beats, we'll wait and see if anybody wants to type something in.